Well, wasn't that the most exciting game you've seen of the year? Only
It's
kidding.
got to be
It was
top three for
Tuesday.
sure.
It was Tuesday against the Wild. What can you expect?
Honestly, a lot of people online have been calling the Wild games mild, but the last I don't know, half dozen or more of them have actually not been that boring, in my opinion.
They're they're actually kind of building up a bit of a rivalry, which is interesting to say the least.
It is.
They're both trying real hard to get to the bottom. Some teams are just better at it than others.
Yeah. Speaking of trying real hard, how about Markstrom trying as hard as he possibly could to let the first shot of the game in, and then failing?
Yeah, like he can't even shit the bed right. He he put in a lot of effort to try and let that go.
He did, but to be fair, he was also really good for the rest of the game. So I was pretty okay with that.
This is it. Noah is correct.
How's it going, Noah?
Yeah, he's absolutely right.
You're not wrong, Noah.
We're gonna miss the playoffs by one single point, and draft once again in the 15th spot, or 16th spot, or 17th spot. I can't wait for
honestly
it.
Like the way it's going. Tija Ginla keeps moving up in the draft, and I think he's supposed to be going around like 12th to 16th right now. So if he stays put, we might be good.
Yeah, and it's almost inevitability, right, to have him be drafted by the Flames.
It's almost like if we end up with like the 5th overall pick, they'll trade down.
Yeah,
I don't want them to. Don't get me wrong. Like it would be nice to have Tija Ginla and all that type of stuff, but best player available. None of this trading down nonsense.
Yeah, just for the name, a bit of nostalgia.
How about the World Juniors? Did you catch any of the Slovakia games with Honzek?
I didn't. I was pretty sporadic in the World Juniors. Even the Canadian games, they were terrible games, and so I actually lost interest in a lot of them and shut them off.
Yeah, I watched them because, I mean, most of them were on at like 3 a.m. or something my time, and I have to be up at 3 a.m. a lot just to be on time for work the next day type of thing, because I work at 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. on weekends, right? So there was a couple games there I was able to just watch because I was trying to keep my body clock proper. And Honzek is actually pretty good, man. He does Flames things where he cleans up garbage, and that's about it. It's how he scored all of his goals was by cleaning up the garbage. So
that's
can't hate on that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we've been clamoring to have people that'll rush the net and just pick up those greasy rebounds for the goals. And aside from a couple of players that we have now, it's been something that we've been lacking for, I don't know, 15 years. Truly, we had Tkachuk that would hang around there and get up some grease on occasion, but he also got to the point where he was spending more time behind the net trying to hit people with his ass and knock people over and stuff like that instead of just playing the game.
Well, it was weird too because for the first few years of his career there, he was always in front of the net, and then almost like the second Sutter showed up, he was like, "Oh no, stand behind the net," which worked. Don't get me wrong, because then he got 104 points or whatever it was. So can't hate on it, but at the same time, gotta wonder how much he would have got points wise if he would have stood in front of the net instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not really sure what's going on with him now, but he certainly is not producing like a Tkachuk, right?
No, that
Thanksgiving and Christmas were a bit awkward between brother and dad.
I don't know what I mean. He hasn't been producing all season. He's got like 5 goals or something like that on the year. It's not been good for him.
No.
But
almost like Huberto.
Almost like Huberto. Good game from him though. Good couple games. The last couple have been pretty good. Honestly, I thought the line kind of disappeared somewhat in the third from what for most of the third, right up until the end there. But
yeah, the whole team disappeared for that.
Yeah, but one thing I want to say is honestly, I think this was Dubé's best game of the season. Low bar.
Yeah.
But I thought he played better than he's played all season. And Huberto played, the last two games, he's played the best games of the season. And I don't just mean points wise. I mean, being engaged and connecting on passes and actually having a line mate with chemistry, which is fucking amazing to see. As much as we want to tank and all that type of stuff, you can't have a 7.5 years worth of a $10.5 million player and have them have nobody to play with. So
that's true. That's true.
And even Lindholm looked like he was gaining some chemistry with Huberto too, which was nice to see.
Yeah, I feel like there was a couple of plays on New Year's Eve where Huberto and Sharangovich looked really good together, like just weird passes out front, and we got the shot off right away. And that's exactly what I think Huberto's been missing, is somebody that just likes to shoot the puck. And he seemed to be able to receive that pass pretty quick. It was good.
Like a lot, I found for most of the year and last year, there's been a lot of guys who can't take, or like, not just that they can't get in position for his passes, but also can't actually receive them without the puck just bouncing off their stick. Mm-hmm. I found that even with Mangiapane, when they were playing together, there'd be a lot of pucks that got to Mangiapane's stick, but then he couldn't keep it, right? But Sharangovich seems to be able to do that, and it's been really, really fun to see.
And
I loved it.
He seems to have a great sense on how to get open and away from the play slightly, so as that he's got nobody in between him and the person with the puck. He gets into these weird areas, and I don't know, like he just quietly skates back and forth until he gets into a spot where he's got a good 7, 8, 9 feet around him with nobody.
Yeah, he drifts backwards.
Yeah.
He gets in there until everybody's concentrated on the puck, and then he drifts backwards just a little bit. It's fucking awesome.
Well, I do think so, Greg. That Toffoli trade is sure looking great now. I mean, I thought it looked pretty good at the time, given the fact that Toffoli wanted out, but Sharangovich has definitely proved his worth.
It's looking even better. It's looking kind of how I thought it would look, because I watched Sharangovich's first year in New Jersey a little bit, just because I had some Devils on my fantasy team a couple years back, and I was watching Sharangovich at the same time and picking him up and being pretty impressed. So I got to say, this is kind of the Sharangovich I've been excited for. However, he's still he's had about 3 or 4 games where he hasn't scored, so it'd be nice to see that. But they're causing so much havoc. It's fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jason, how you doing? It's really nice to see it. Like he's got massive skill. He loves to shoot the puck, and he's never floating. He's always moving. Kind of like Pospisil, right? He's always trying to at least create something.
Yeah,
which is
100%.
Which is refreshing.
I didn't see Pospisil that much in the second half of the game. I saw him a couple times in the first period, but did you notice him much?
Not much. No. He was pretty quiet tonight.
Yeah, even Zari was kind of quiet. Kadri was all over the place, but even Zari's been kind of quiet the last couple, I found.
Yeah. Pospisil only played 9 minutes.
Okay.
8 minutes 59. So.
And how about Mangiapane, who, has always only played good with two players, finally being put back with those two players and not being complete ass.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It's crazy.
You put the player with the players he excels with, and he excels.
Yeah.
It's a stupid concept, I know, but it works.
Yeah. How about Osterley? How have you felt about Osterley? I know you didn't mind him to start the season, but
He's he's up and down for me. He gets himself caught a lot out of position, trying to make the offensive play. But I don't know. I think he's still a work in progress. Perhaps if we keep him beyond this year, I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't be upset if we signed him or if we didn't sign him.
Fair enough. So he reminds me a lot of Zadorov. Not because he's big and making hits or anything like that, but because he's like a roller coaster and he's quick, but he's kind of all over the place in the defensive zone, especially in the defensive zone and in the offensive zone, actually. And that's kind of part of the reason why he's nowhere to be found in the defensive zone half the time. Yeah. Kind of like Zadorov, right? Like even Anderson and Uyghur do it sometimes, and Hanifin, but they get back in time most of the time. Whereas Osterley's kind of lost, I find.
Yeah, Zadorov never had an issue getting back in the play. Even if the play started out with him being behind the net, he was always one of the first ones back.
Because he was quick, right?
Yeah. So I mean, as it is right now, like Osterley's, he's less than $1 million on the 1 year. But he's 31, right? So he's not part of the core moving forward. So no, I feel like it's going to be a one and done for him.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Greg said there about Sharangovich being part of the core. I don't think anybody is part of the core who's only signed for one more year after this one. I really like him, and I would really, really like to see an extension. I don't know if I'm confident knowing a number I'd be happy with right now, but I like him enough to keep him around, that's for sure. But I wouldn't call him a part of the core until he's here a little longer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, given his play, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him get at least a 3-year extension. So, I mean, he's making 3.1 now, which before the season started, I thought was a bit extreme. But I mean, for me, he could easily make 4.5 to 4.9, and I would be totally okay with that.
Yeah, that seems fair. Especially on a 3-year deal, right? Because that takes him, because he's 25 now, right? So he'd be 26 after this deal is done. So that takes him to 29 years old.
Well, he'll be 27, right? Because he's got two years on this contract, 24,
right.
25.
Right. So yeah, he'll be like 30-ish.
Yeah.
By the time an extension like that ends. Yeah, I'd be okay with that, man. 4.5, 5-ish sounds about right for a guy who looks like if you give him the ice time, he'll pot 20 goals, at least 25 maybe. And he's a staple on the PK. He's a staple on the power play. Like he's perfectly fine, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel comfortable having him in almost every situation. It was, yeah. No, I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of anybody that's 25 and younger at the moment.
Yeah,
Zari has kind of dropped off quite a bit in the last handful of games, but you can't expect him to carry the play every night.
To be expected. I saw a stat. He was one of the highest shooting percentage players in the league for a little while. So that kind of drop off wasn't really shocking to me, but it is kind of shocking that he dropped off. Like he's not touching, he's only touching the puck when he's on the power play, I find.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see him get more touches, and because he seems to be the type of player that's not going to be incredibly dynamic without touching the puck a lot. Like,
yeah, he hasn't had a point in the last 4 games, and honestly, I think he's been pretty invisible.
yeah,
Kind of leading up, well, pretty invisible for the last 3 for sure.
yeah.
Aside from power play.
So Kyle's asking, would you guys rather have Byram or picks and prospects in a Colorado deal? Now, I heard a rumor earlier today. I don't know if it's true. You
heard it on the internet. It's got to be true, Dylan.
Yeah. But I heard that apparently they're thinking about Byram and picks, which I would be more okay with. But if it was between the two, I'd rather have picks and prospects because Byram has some pretty hefty concussion issues that seem to be recurring. I like him as a player, but I don't want to trade away Lindholm and then get somebody back who, honestly, like 2 years ago when Colorado won the cup, there was rumors of Byram retiring at like 19 or however old he was because his concussions were getting that bad. And that scares the living bejesus out of me. But if it's Byram and picks, I'd be okay. But just Byram scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, 100%. For more than one reason, in my opinion, because I don't think he's worth a first at the moment. So I know he was drafted, was it 3rd, 4th overall?
Byram? Oh, something like that. I could take a look. Yeah. I'm sure Kyle or Greg would know.
I think it was 4th overall, but that was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah, he's still young. Honestly, I would not. I wouldn't choose him over picks. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. 4th overall in 2019. So that's 5 years ago, pretty much.
Yeah, so 5 years ago. He's
a great player.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't worried about his health issues, I'd take him straight up for Lindholm. Like, he's that good of a player, but his health issues scare the shit out of me. So
yeah, I always have an issue trading like somebody from your top line for a defender, no matter how good they are. But that's because that's a big hole to fill. And defense, I mean, aside from like obviously we're going to be likely going without 1 or 2 of our current defensive core. We don't have much in the prospect area for defense, at least for stud defense. That's for sure.
That's one of the reasons why I would seriously think about Byram at the very least, is just because we don't have any real top end defensive prospects. Like, we have Poirier, who to me projects out to be kind of like a Goss Despair or D'Angelo type player who's like a 3rd pair sheltered guy who's got who's always on your top power play.
Yeah.
But we don't really have anybody who's top end on the top pairing prospect wise, and Byram could be that maybe one day. He's top 4 already, right? And he's only 23 or something like that. So
yeah, that's fair. So what did you think of Huberdeau's goal tonight? Dying seconds of the period.
I thought it was actually pretty. It reminded me. Remember that game you and I went to last year in Chicago, or not in Chicago, but against Chicago, where we lost horrifically, but Huberdeau scored?
Yeah.
it reminded me of that goal because it was kind of like a backhand or a forehand backhand in type thing, but it showed confidence and it showed also a little bit of chemistry between him and Lindholm, which was really nice to see.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there saying like people are just shitting all over the something to build off narrative, and I'm like, nobody's saying Huberdeau's back. Nobody's saying Huberdeau's all of a sudden going to come back and score, a point a game for the rest of the season. But it is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Something to build off of.
Yeah, it's a step, right? Obviously, he needs to have a few games in a row where he gets some feel good type situations for himself, so he can just start producing. We all know that he's better than what he's been doing.
Oh, 100%. And he's been making some good passes really most of the season.
Yeah.
And just like nobody's been able to score on them. He should still be producing. Like that's not all of what's going on. The other guy not scoring isn't what's all of the problem, but it's part of it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed, Joshua.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's what they need, right? They need that chemistry. They need that, their version of the purple Gatorade or whatever, right? Just tell a story. Let them have fun. They're playing a game, so if you can get some chemistry between your top line center and what should be your number one playmaker on the wing, then it's a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, and it's something positive for the fan base too, right? It's again, nobody's saying he's back or anything like that, but it's nice to see him making passes like that. And like, who had Dennis Gilbert on their bingo card as the guy who was going to bust Huberdeau's point slump?
I mean, I did.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
So how much money did you make off that on Betway, and how much are you going to
I lost $125, okay? Leave me alone.
Or sorry, on DraftKings, my
DraftKings, yeah, come on. Wow. We've got the logo right there, right?
Like, it's right there.
Holy. There it goes. Pulled from the network, just like that. Well done, Dylan.
Oh fuck. Look at that.
I mean, Gilbert, right?
That was a snipe show too.
That was amazing. Yeah, I had to look twice to see who the hell shot that, right?
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was at a house party on New Year's Eve and we celebrated that goal. It was worth it. But once again, we got players out there scoring goals when we're trying to tank, and Celebrini isn't gonna drop to the 17th spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might after Canada doing what Canada did today, but
yeah, do we really want to go after a player that can't throw a team on his back and beat up on a lesser opponent?
We already have enough of those, Chris.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, like, so we just vaulted over Minnesota because they were 1 point ahead of us, and now we're 1 point ahead of them. But we're still not really all that close to a wild card spot. So we've got 37 points in 37 games. And the first wild card spot is 40 points in 35 games. So we're, Arizona's likely to win one of those games at least. So we've got a little while before we go. We're finally at 500 points wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see if they can finally actually win a game after getting to 500.
And it took them quite a while to get there. We were at 500 like 3 weeks ago or a month ago,
Yeah.
and then it's just been kind of a bit of a roller coaster, which is what it's always been like being a Flames fan. We all know that.
Yeah, then they'll finally get to the point where it's after the trade deadline and we're all finally, like, the fan base is finally all accepted that we're probably going to get a top 10 pick and lose out. And then they go and win 8 games straight and make it to the wild card spot and get
and then play
win
5.
one game against Colorado. And
That's exactly what I was going to say. Play 5 games of playoff hockey, and such as us, right?
yeah.
It's very typical for us.
Oh, your cat.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't
Is
know.
the Colorado game still on? They're playing right now, aren't they?
Probably.
Your cat is needy
Yeah.
today.
She is needy.
How about that redirection by Mangiapane? Like, we shit all over him and like well deserved, but that was a nice little redirect from him.
That was, because he doesn't do that often, right? He's not really good at deflecting the puck.
Well, he's not
he's
really
good
good
at letting it
standing in
deflect
front
off.
of the net because he gets knocked over by a slight nudge. So,
Well, that's
it's
right.
surprising that happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's not great at deflecting because he's, it's not really called a deflection when it goes off your boot while you're laying on the ice.
Yeah,
I think is how that goes. Yeah, no, that was a good play. Or a good tip.
Yeah. Markstrom with 966. It's definitely not too bad.
Yeah, he's quietly got his save percentage up into the league average territory, which is good, which has kind of been where he's been at his whole career, right?
Yeah.
He's at what, about 906 now?
Well, he was at 904 to start the game, so I don't know what he's at now.
Yeah, good point.
Probably about 906. I'd have to look it up. I just wanted to throw out there too. We're 58.5 on the faceoffs today, which is weird because there was one point during the game there where it felt like we kept icing the puck because we kept losing the faceoff, and then we'd have to wrestle it back, and they'd be tired and just throw it away.
Nice. And NHL has him listed at 907 now with a
Markstrom?
265 goal.
Slowly getting back to starter numbers. Slowly.
Fuck's sake, Greg. Yeah.
What did Greg have to say?
Yeah, so far, buddy. So far, he's a point per game guy now in 2024.
Yeah. And like, how many games do we have left in the season?
37. Jeez. Was that
like not even 50 points? So he's not
45.
even. Yeah. Like, he's on pace for like if he stays at a point a game, what's that?
He's on pace for 45 goals this year alone.
Oof, that would be nice. Living up to that contract, yeah.
Yeah, what is
I
it?
mean, if he gets 45 goals, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so he's got 17 right now. Add another 45 to that, baby. Holy.
If you think about the way the cap is
mil.
going and the way contracts are going, though, by the time his contract ends, he could get 50 points, and it would be about $10.5 million.
Let's ease up. I don't know that he's going to get 50 points this year. Jesus.
Yeah, it would be nice, but
I mean,
I'm not holding my breath.
He just got over 50 points last year at 55. So let's, Huberdeau is now a 50-point guy for the Flames.
Yes, that's what we paid for,
right?
Yeah,
sure is. How does that? So half a season at 17 points. It's not bad, right?
Yeah. Hopefully he continues. Like, honestly, if him and Sharon Govich continue the chemistry they seem to be building, I could see. I'm going to knock on wood, but I could see several multi-point games for both of them coming. It's actually dynamic a lot of the time. It's not just like middle of the road players playing well. It actually looks like dynamic players connecting.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can start like actually finishing a little bit more, and I could see and actually getting some bouncing back a little bit.
Would you mind if I showed that Huberdeau goal?
No, go for it.
Let's see what I got.
Half minute left in the period. Stolen by Sharon Govich. Here's Lindholm in front. They score! Beautiful goal. And it's
like that goal was actually very similar to that one in Chicago. Hey,
Flames make it 2-0.
Or not in Chicago, but against Chicago. And that pass from Lindholm and the reception of the pass, like that, there was actually there's some chemistry there, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Which is weird because it's been like pulling teeth to get those two to have any sort of like, even when they tried them with Toffoli last year, like there was just nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was flat.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully this is something to build off of, and I'm not expecting them to score every game or anything because my expectations are fucking rock bottom. So everything at this point is a bonus. But
yeah, I've spent pretty much this. I've spent this whole year celebrating every goal and every loss. It's been a weird dynamic this year.
It is a little weird, hey, because I've enjoyed the losses because I just want Conroy to start selling off some of these pieces, which I think, from what I heard today, Saravalli was saying that Calgary's ready to do business. They just haven't got they've gotten nothing more than tire kickers. They've gotten no real offers. They've just got people calling to see what it might take.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of it, right? Everybody's kind of up against it with the cap right now, and so there has to be enough games that go by where their current contract isn't worth as much. So I think most of our key pieces that we're likely going to trade off, like a Lindholm or a Hanifin or a Tanev, or I guess pick a number out of the hat, I think they're mostly going to be in and around the trade deadline. It's where you're going to make the most anyways.
I just don't want them to wait too long. And I think that if you have that many big pieces and you're waiting up until a day or two before the deadline, then it's too much business and not enough time to do that business.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be left with somebody who wants to leave and not having traded them.
Yeah.
And that's what terrifies me. But I don't think that I think he's probably going to move one of those guys in the next 2-3 weeks and then kind of wait for the other ones.
Yeah, I also thought they were going to move one or two of those guys by now. So it's hard
just
to
happy
say.
they got rid of Zadorov at this point.
Yeah.
Return may not have been what people expected, but I don't know what people were expecting from a third pairing defenseman who is asking for way more than third pairing money. So
I wanted more than a third round pick 3 years from now.
Yeah. I feel like they're going to use that third round pick to in another deal.
Right.
To improve the return on another deal. Like they're going to throw that in on a Lindholm deal and the quality of the prospects that comes back or whatever increases.
Right.
And yes, Josh, the new lines are looking fucking pretty good so far. And even the fourth line looked pretty good. Rosiska was kind of nowhere, but I found Dubé and Greer were all over the place tonight.
It's kind of amazing that the fourth line has kind of looked somewhat piss poor most times this year, given the effort that
How good
Greer.
Greer's looked.
Yeah, like he's been dominant when he's on the ice, and he actually had some support with another one of his line mates tonight, which was good. But yeah, Greer's been everything you can hope for in a fourth liner.
I couldn't agree more. And one thing I noticed about Greer, I don't know if it was just Fleury tonight, but I've noticed it a couple of other times this year with other goalies. I think he's got a deceptively hard wrist shot, because his shot stung Fleury tonight. Like he flinched and wavered when he was taking those shots in. He wasn't just making saves; he was like actually flinching at them. So I think Greer might have a much harder wrist shot than we may give him credit for.
He gets it off the stick quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he does have some real good ability to get the puck at the net, and no, he's been, you know, he's one of those guys where, you know, it's unfortunate he's on the fourth line, so he's, you know, he can be replaced at pretty much any time, but I feel like that's the type of player we need in the West, is somebody that is, you know, has that grit and he just busts his ass every shift.
I've heard a lot about possibly them flipping Greer.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually like them to just hold on. Like if they can get him at like $1 million or something like that for 3 years or something like that, he's a perfectly good fourth liner.
He is.
But I have heard them, you know, rumors of them maybe trying to see if a contender will flip a 5th round pick or something for him, which, you know, I wouldn't hate that either, but
no, I wouldn't
like
either.
It's a good fit for him here, and I feel like the fans like him, and I feel like he likes it in Calgary. So
I agree.
I'd rather have him than a 5th round pick.
I agree. I would rather have him than a 5th for sure. I mean, especially like for this year, he's less than $800,000 a year. So I mean, or for this year, anyways. And you know, I would be okay with them signing him to a 2 or 3 year 1.2.
Yeah,
you know, even 1.5 if it sweetened it up a bit. I would be comfortable with him remaining a Flame for a while.
And I feel like, especially with Calgary being in the same city, with the Flames being in the same city as the Wranglers, I feel like a $1.2 million contract in the landscape of the cap right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like even if you were to send him down, which I don't think you would do right now, but I mean, in the future, if you're like 2 years down the road, he's still under contract and he's not doing it anymore.
Right.
It provides him with the security because he wants to be in Calgary, let's say. It provides him with the security that, you know, he doesn't need a no move clause. He can get sent down and he still gets paid and he's still in Calgary.
Right.
Yeah. And he won't get claimed because of the 1.2, which is a perfectly fine thing to have on your cap. Like, there's no problem with that. It's, you know.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, he's got that price tag where, I mean, it really doesn't matter whether he's here or playing for the Wranglers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not going to be any savings there anyway. So I don't know. I don't think that he's the type of player that's going to work his way out of the lineup.
I don't either. I think he works too much for that.
Mhm.
And like if he does, I don't see it being anything more than a healthy scratch.
Mhm.
And probably not for long. And
No,
not for a
and
while.
just to give somebody a chance to play, but
Hmm. To
or
cycle someone in for a game or
maintenance
two.
day or whatever.
Mhm. How about the block shots? I've noticed the last few games,
Mhm.
since Tanev got hurt, obviously he's been back for a few games now, but since Tanev got hurt, I've
Mhm.
noticed Raz and Gilbert and pretty much everybody who's not Osterley, but especially Raz and Gilbert
Gilbert's
laying
really
down
good
in
at
front of
that.
everything. And I've
Mhm.
been really impressed with Gilbert. Like there was one sequence maybe 3 or 4 games ago where Gilbert had 4 or 5 blocks in a minute in one
Mhm.
shift.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, he's been one that I think is learning from Tanev because
Mhm.
I feel like his game has changed slightly since the beginning of this year.
He is
Um,
he's a Tanev type player.
he is. Yeah. He's a Tanev type player who
Fights.
is scrappier, right?
Yeah.
Which, that's going to be the age, and things like that, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, nobody's going to doubt Tanev's toughness, right? So I'm not saying that Tanev isn't as tough as Gilbert because that's not true. He just doesn't get into fights, right? For
Exactly.
whatever reason, he's too smart of a player for that. He's too much of a veteran. He knows when to do that, and he just knows that it's not going to help the team. So he's just going to put his body on the line for every game.
Yeah.
Fucking guy. Yeah.
Well, it was definitely a good game to watch. It was fun. The last couple games have been fun to watch. It's been really, really good to see Huberto smiling. Um, it's
Yeah.
been good to see a little bit of chemistry between him and his line mates for the first time since he was in Florida. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think the team is, even though it's not really ideal for how personally I think both of us want the season to go. Like I think we're both kind of looking for a little bit of selling and a decent draft pick for a year or two, and then try and get back up to it. But
Yeah.
I feel like the team is starting to gel more than it has for the past season and a half or so, and it's been fun to watch either way. Like you can't
Mhm.
deny it. Fun hockey is just fun to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely been a better product on the ice this year than it was last year, as far as excitement goes and style of play. I'm still not a fan of zone defense, but say la vie. That's my opinion. Um, I think it's zone defense is great in the NFL. I just don't think it works great in the NHL personally. But
I haven't found there to be many problems with it in the last handful of games,
yeah,
small handful of games, but there's still like 30 games worth of just bad reads when it comes to where your area in the defensive zone is supposed to be.
mhm,
And a lot of the time they're caught looking at each other wondering who's supposed to go for the puck or who's supposed to go for that man,
yeah,
and that's frustrating. But
it is frustrating, right? When they're trying to figure out an imaginary line on the ice,
yeah,
in
especially when
in
it's
real
this
time.
far in. And I get
Mhm,
that it worked for Vegas,
right.
which is why so many teams are starting to try and do it. But Vegas also has like a lot of really big defensive minded players
Right.
and a couple of elite defensemen, and you know
I feel like their size and their ruggedness will allow that type of defensive style of play.
yeah
Yeah, I agree.
yeah
Well, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking everybody who's still watching should probably head over to our Facebook page and our YouTube page and hit the subscribe button. Let your friends know about us and follow us on X.
On X. Yeah, armchair GM _pod on Twitter, on X.
Yeah. And thanks for joining. We'll do another live show probably in a couple weeks. Probably one every couple weeks, I think is pretty fair. And hopefully we get a new episode done pretty soon.
That's right. Thanks for
Cheers,
tuning
everybody.
in. Go Flames.
Go Flames.